Welcome into a brand new episode of WSI TV. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to another brand new episode of Bishop's Move here on WSI TV. I'm Jordan Bishop and I'm joined by Tayler Klinkbeil. How are you doing, Tayler?
I'm good. How are you, Jordan?
Good, thanks. Now we've got a very interesting episode for you today, something that you may not have seen in the news lately, and of course we'll get to that. We're talking about crypto. But first and foremost, make sure you head on over to WSITV.com, sign up for the WSI Vault, and of course you'll get those free daily newsletters. So Tayler, why don't you kick us off here with what we're talking about?
Of course, yeah. So today we're going to be covering something that you and I kind of discussed beforehand, that it's not really been in the news, so it's kind of going to be a little blip, mainly for just coverage right now. But I thought that was really interesting that the financial news markets had been covering cryptocurrencies like crazy in the past couple months. In the mid and early 2019,
Right.
It was basically all they could talk about was how crazy Bitcoin was going and all of its brethren.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at this silence right now, which is really odd. We saw spikes and dips that everyone was freaking out about. It was something that you saw every morning and every night before the market closed. So we're kind of going to look into today why you haven't heard about it recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange that it's sort of run out of steam. It's how convenient, you know. It doesn't have, the media's looking for this euphoria. I mean, we say it every week, you know, they need their story. There's other things on their agenda right now, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking at it, of course. So what exactly is going on in crypto right now if you haven't been looking at it?
Yes, so that's a good question. Right now we've been focused on basically everything else. The news had been reporting on trade tensions, Brexit, the 2020 election, and everything else that's just been kind of cropping up, news story after news story. You didn't miss anything in crypto necessarily. It wasn't like the buy-in in 2017 where it was the 2,000% return. Yeah. You didn't miss that. But there has been some developments that you should be aware of because it is something that is very important in finance. And you haven't seen any extensive coverage on it recently. Right,
yeah, and that's the thing. When nobody's looking, you know, that's when something happens because the smart money will be piling in quietly, you know. It's when everyone's looking at it, really, when you want to be wary, you know, when, I mean, Jim always says when the bagger at Publix is talking about something, that's time to get out, you know? So the bagger at Publix or whatever your local grocery store is, I realize that's a Southeastern store.
Yes, that is a Floridian thing.
Since your bagger at whatever grocery store isn't talking about it now, maybe it's time to look at it.
Yes.
So very interesting there. And we were talking earlier, I'd like to place a bet on when the media comes around and starts talking about it again, because I bet it will be halfway up the next rally, and that's early. I'm giving them credit there. You know, I'm saying they'll catch on it. The smart ones will be about halfway up the next rally. We have seen a few spikes lately, as we'll look at. But it's important to stay up to date with this stuff.
Yes,
you know, it's a very good vehicle for investment. I mean, there's a lot of profit to be made. You know, we saw a lot of headlines: the death of Bitcoin, the death of cryptocurrency. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of cryptocurrency and the underlying blockchain that it lives on. It lives within. And just a quick sort of sidestep, because I know blockchain can sort of, you know, it's this confusing realm, isn't it? But basically, if you just consider it like, remember when the internet came around and you had websites, blockchain is the equivalent of the internet, and cryptocurrencies are the equivalent of websites that live on that blockchain or internet.
Yes, and that's a really good distinction to make because we have predicted here. I mean, you and I talk about it all the time. We have, of course, Jim Sampson predicted it's going to flourish in the coming decade. We do have a very long-term view of what cryptocurrency is going to mean in the financial world and whatever form that takes, whether it's these cryptocurrencies that we know now or if it's blockchain. But no matter what it is, these things are going to have a place in the future.
Exactly.
And it's going to be something that you probably want to be aware of sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 100%. You know, you want to get in early. I mean, you don't want to follow the random cryptocurrencies down a rabbit hole because there's I mean, last time I checked, there was over, I want to say like 2,000 or something like that. You can check on coinmarketcap.com and actually list them by their market cap. Bitcoin has been the king on there for a little while. Ethereum is a close second. I know Ripple took over Ethereum. I believe it's maybe back under. They're neck and neck, Ethereum and Ripple right now. But really, if you've got some time to do a little bit of research on your own, or just keep watching our episodes here, we're going to try and stay ahead of that next Bitcoin, So if Bitcoin does die, which we're not saying it will, there's going to be a successor, It's just the way the world's moving forward. But of course, crypto, I'm a complete bull on it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
of course. But just like you don't hear a news report on the US dollar every day, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be watching it. It's something that there are certain things that as a trader you kind of just check in routinely, and you just check these amount of charts every day.
Exactly.
You check these three charts every morning. It's just something that you should have in your retinue of things that you're keeping an eye on and kind of just always keeping tabs on, because it's not a fad.
Right.
It's not something that's going away anytime soon.
Right. I would say my most important charts, my go-to when the market first opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I look at the S&P 500. I look at the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq. Right. I also look at gold and bonds. I look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then another chart that we're going to show here in a little bit, which is a great vehicle for trading Bitcoin.
Indeed.
And I make sure that those are, and then I'll check silver, and then I'll check individual stocks, of course. But those are my go-to to see what's going on. Oil's another big one.
Yes.
I like to look at USO. But make sure you're checking that on the regular. But like you said earlier, it's not like we've missed out on a buy signal here, because we've been watching it. We've been waiting for this little pop that we've seen in the recent weeks. So there's no reason to panic here.
No, yes. You didn't miss out on what is going to be the next big surge. Again, like we said, we don't know if it is going to be Bitcoin, but we're going to be keeping our tabs on the things that we think are going to surge. And you don't want to miss anything that's important just because you're not being told to look at the right things.
Right.
You should be keeping tabs on things like this, and don't ignore it just because you didn't hear about it in the news.
Exactly. And, there will be just one day, there'll be a sudden, development where NASDAQ will release an ETF or something like that. I mean, I know there's been some that have been, there's been some ETFs that have been shut down, but I guarantee as soon as one of those are approved, that's when you want to be in right before then, which is really what looking at the chart does for you.
It does.
Now we've got that trading vehicle I was talking about earlier, GBTC. Tayler, what can you tell us about this chart here?
Yes, like you were saying, this is of course kind of just the general one that you look at when I want to know what's going on in cryptocurrency. I pull up this chart. This is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And as you can see, this huge spike right behind us, that's that rally that we were talking about. Like you said, it started in very late 2017. And you see this spike all the way up to 38 on this chart, and we're at 10 right now.
Right.
But what I'm seeing right here is, you mentioned this huge, we got that spike in the pop earlier, and I'm seeing this chart pointed upwards. It's not in a spot that I'm enjoying right now, but it's going somewhere, it looks like. One
specific thing I'd like to point out on this chart is there was a solid downtrend that it was stuck in since mid-2019, since last summer, right? And it was just down, down, down. You can actually see there's a perfect line there that's following it all the way down right here. And it's actually broken out of that recently, as you can see in the bottom right hand of your screen, with heavy volume. As you can see, not as heavy as the big spikes we had earlier in the year and in 2017, but this heavy volume really shows you that there's people buying, there's people getting in, and this is a great vehicle that you could trade. If you don't want a crypto wallet, you just want to buy it as if it's a stock, you can actually trade GBTC, and it's one of the only surviving tradable stocks / ETFs, funds, whatever you want to call it, that hasn't just sort of gone by the wayside. There were a few that came around that we had to be careful of, but this one's really survived and shown that it's, in my opinion, legitimate. So I've traded it, I've been in and out of it a bunch of times. But Stock Charts actually has a really cool, fairly new feature here where you can look at the actual currency and the actual price of the currency. So you said GBTC hit 38 in the last chart. As you can see here, Bitcoin touched or near touch 20,000, which is the real price of the coin.
Yes.
So, similar chart, but a similar downtrend as well. You can see that on the right side.
Yes, they are pretty similar, those charts that we're looking at there, of course,
Yeah, so you should add this to your list. It's just $BTC USD. That's the Bitcoin against the US dollar, because of course it trades against multiple currencies. And you can also look at the chart for Ethereum as well, which is again another big one we've just spoken about. That's $ETHUSD there. What do you make of this chart then, Tayler?
I'm kind of interested to see that it looks very similar to the Bitcoin chart. I haven't studied this chart in in depth in the past, but looking at it now, it's got very similar movements, and I'm loving this volume down here, like you mentioned before.
Massive
but this
volume.
is even insane in comparison to what we saw in the other charts.
Yeah, I mean, look at that 2019 volume compared to even the spike that it had. I believe it reached 1,400, over 1,400 back in the crypto euphoria of 2017. But the volume that's been piling in, and I'll give you a little insight on Ethereum here. They have their own blockchain, just as Bitcoin does. But there's a load of coins that trade on Ethereum's blockchain, and they have this very interesting thing called it's intrinsic contracts. So if you're doing business with somebody and you pay with Ethereum through that blockchain, the funds won't release to them until the contract is executed. So it's like a middleman on their blockchain. They have that technology there. So awesome. This is a very interesting one to watch. It could take over Bitcoin. I mean, I would be really keen to watch this chart closely. Another one to add to your list. So, a couple interesting charts there. Let's talk about the last Bitcoin rally and what we can see in this next one.
Yes. So of course, you're going to hear all over the place, well, who's to say that's going to happen again? We don't know if it's going to happen in Bitcoin, but I can tell you that it did happen, and it was a 2,000% surge, and you saw $182,000 if you had gotten in at that time. So, I mean, you don't really want to miss out any kind of profit that could be even in that ballpark, especially when it's going to be something that's such a huge integral part of trading as we're coming into the 2020s. This is not something that's just going to be this one and done like we saw. I think that was just the first surge in popularity as it kind of took hold in investing, and I think we're going to see another one very soon. Right,
yeah. And, you hear people saying, oh, Bitcoin's low. It is what it is. I mean, it's not low, really. It's low relative to the 20,000 it nearly hit, the 20,000 it basically hit in December 2017. But if you looked at the Dow Jones, I mean, it's at what? It's 27,000 or whatever it's at right now. It was at 6,000 at one point, right? Yeah. And when it's hit 6,000, then 4,000 looks low compared to the 6. But now it's up massively.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, it's all relative. A Bitcoin at one point was at $200 as well. I mean, that's low, but that was when it was beginning. So I mean, that's a huge surge. And again, I think we'll see. I'm optimistic about Bitcoin. We say that we always want to leave we always want to leave it out there that it might not be the leader in the next rally. I see it. I think it will be though. Well, I give it one more rally, and if it can sustain itself during that rally, then I could see it hanging on. But it doesn't matter because we're just looking for that next opportunity, that next signal. So I wouldn't completely rule out cryptocurrency here. But again, back to the media. You can't watch them, right? Yeah, I mean, they'll be talking about the next thing that's on people's mind that are going to sell views, sell advertisement.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, like we were saying, they didn't report on Bitcoin as it was climbing up to 20,000. You saw those headlines towards 15,000 and 16,000.
Right, yeah.
So you don't see it when you can get in on a $200 Bitcoin, so you need to be looking at this yourself.
Yeah.
And setting your own milestones for the warning signs that you're saying, okay, this is when it's going to be a good investment for me, and this is when I need to get involved.
Right. I mean, they were putting it out to the bagger who was watching the TV, your grocery store bagger. So, I mean, all I would say from this is make sure you're not getting your financial advice from the grocery store bagger, but watching as a warning sign, right? If they're talking about it, it may be time to get out. But I think we're far from that in this second crypto rally. So, Tayler, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching the latest episode of WSI TV. Be sure to visit WSITV.com where you can subscribe for free with no contract and gain instant access to the secrets of self-made millionaires via the WSI TV Vault. So go ahead and claim this gift for free now at WSITV.com.